Remember to like, subscribe, share, and consider donating, please, to keep this channel going. Links are below. It really does make a difference. Thank you. If you have any true scary stories you'd like to submit, the email is in the description below. A winter horror story, school lockdown, based on real events. Imagine being trapped in your school as an unknown threat lurks nearby. Your heart races as you decide to stay inside or flee into the freezing woods. For 15-year-old Jake, this nightmare became a reality just days before Christmas. His ordinary school day turned into a fight for survival against both man and nature. What would you do if faced with the same chilling choice? This is his story. The hallways were hushed as I walked to my locker. The week before Christmas break was usually filled with excited chatter and laughter. Students would be comparing holiday plans or complaining about last-minute assignments. I glanced out the window, seeing fat snowflakes swirling in the wind. We live in a small town, and the school is in the middle of nowhere. The weather forecast had warned of a major storm, and it looked like it was hitting us early. A thick white blanket covered the school grounds, obscuring the parking lot and sport fields. I noticed a man standing near the main office as I approached my locker. Something about him seemed off. He wore dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. His eyes darted nervously, and he kept fidgeting with something in his pocket. My stomach tightened. I'd been taught to look out for signs of suspicious behavior, and this guy was ticking all the boxes. He didn't belong here, and his body language screamed that he was up to no good. I debated what to do. Should I tell someone? What if I was overreacting? But as I watched, the man tried to open the door to a restricted area, then quickly stepped back when a teacher walked by. That settled it. I had to say something. I made my way to Mr. Johnson's classroom. "Mr. Johnson," I said, knocking on his open door. "Can I talk to you for a second?" He looked up from his desk, smiling. "Of course, Jake. What's on your mind?" I explained what I'd seen, describing the man's appearance and odd behavior. Mr. Johnson's expression grew serious as he listened. "You did the right thing by telling me," he said, standing up. "I'm going to alert the office right away. Stay here for now, okay?" I nodded, relieved to have shared the burden. Mr. Johnson left the room, and I sat at one of the desks, my leg bouncing nervously. A few minutes later, the intercom crackled to life. "Attention, all students and staff. We are initiating a lockdown procedure. This is not a drill. Please follow standard lockdown protocols immediately." My heart raced as the reality of the situation sank in. I thought about my classmates scattered throughout the school. Were they safe? What about my girlfriend, Maria? As Mr. Johnson rushed back into the room, locking the door behind him, I realized I had a decision to make. Should I stay put or try to find Maria? The thought of her alone and scared made my chest tighten. The lockdown announcement had barely finished when chaos erupted in the hallway. Students poured into classrooms, their faces a mix of confusion and terror. Some ran towards the exits, while others frantically searched for an open door. I spotted my best friend Sean at the far end of the corridor, desperately trying doorknobs as he looked for an open room. That's when I saw them. Two men wearing winter coats and horrifying clown masks rounded the corner behind Sean. "Maria," I whispered, suddenly remembering my girlfriend. I saw her emerging from the girls' washroom, looking bewildered by the commotion. Without thinking, I sprinted towards her. "Jake, what's happening?" she asked, her voice trembling. I grabbed her hand. "We need to move, now." We pressed ourselves against the wall as students rushed past. Nearby, I saw teachers waving frantically from classroom doorways, urging stragglers to get inside. But as we approached, the doors slammed shut one by one. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed through the hallway. Gunshots. Then came a scream that I knew belonged to Sean. The sound sent a jolt of adrenaline through my body, and in that instant, my choice became clear. "We're getting out of here," I told Maria, my voice steadier than I felt. A primal urge propelled me forward as we hurried towards the school back exit. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, protect Maria, and get as far away from danger as possible. We burst through the exit doors, the frigid air hitting us like a wall. Snow swirled around us, already several inches deep on the ground. The woods behind the school loomed dark and forbidding. "We can't go out there," Maria said, her teeth chattering. "We'll freeze." I hesitated for a split second, weighing our options. The warmth and familiarity of the school beckoned, but I knew the killers were inside. We faced the harsh winter elements out here, but at least we had a chance. "We have to," I said, squeezing her hand. "I promise, I'll keep you safe." We took a deep breath and stepped off the path into the untouched snow. The woods swallowed us up, muffling the sounds of panic from the school. As we pushed deeper into the frozen unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that our ordeal was only beginning. As Maria and I trudged through the deepening snow, the biting cold hit us like a physical force. Each step was a struggle, the powder reaching halfway up our shins. I could feel the icy wind cutting through my thin jacket, and Maria's teeth chattered audibly beside me. "Jake, I can't feel my fingers," Maria whispered, her voice shaking. I looked around, taking in our surroundings. Bare trees loomed in all directions, their branches laden with snow. The school had disappeared from view, now swallowed up by the white curtain of falling snowflakes. "We need to find shelter," I said, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. "Something to block this wind." And as we pushed on, realizing how ill-prepared we were struck me. Our school clothes offered little protection against the elements. My sneakers were already soaked through, and I could feel my toes going numb. I knew we had little time before the cold became a serious threat. "How long can we stay out here?" Maria asked, voicing the fear growing in my mind. I remembered a survival fact I'd once read. In these conditions, we might have 30 minutes to an hour before hypothermia became a real risk. "We need to keep moving and find cover fast," I told her. The physical effects of the cold were becoming more noticeable with each passing minute. My fingers felt clumsy and uncoordinated as I tried to zip up my jacket. Maria stumbled beside me, her movements becoming sluggish. As we pressed on, desperately searching for anything that could offer protection, but the school was miles from the nearest town, surrounded by an endless expanse of trees and snow. There were no cabins, parks, shelters, or even a shed. As despair began to set in, I spotted a massive fallen tree ahead. Its upturned roots created a natural barrier against the wind, and the trunk could provide some overhead cover. "There," I pointed out, feeling a surge of hope. "Let's get under that tree." We half ran and half stumbled towards our makeshift shelter. I felt a small relief as we huddled beneath the snow-covered branches. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. "What do we do now?" Maria asked, hugging herself tightly. "We need to stay as warm and dry as possible," I said, wrapping an arm around her. "And we need to listen for any signs of help." A faint sound reached us through the muffling snow as if on cue. A sharp crack that could only be another gunshot coming from the direction of the school. Then even more chilling, the sound of voices. They were distant but growing closer. Maria's eyes widened in fear. Are they looking for us? I pulled her closer, straining to hear. Friend or foe, I couldn't tell. But one thing was certain. Our ordeal was far from over. The sounds of approaching voices grew louder, and each step crunched through, sending shivers down my spine. But in the winter wasteland, could we tell friend from foe? The next few moments would determine our fate. Maria and I huddled closer under the fallen tree, our senses on high alert. Every snap of a branch, every whisper of wind through the bare trees set our hearts racing. The voices grew clearer, gruff, unfamiliar, and menacing. "They couldn't have gotten far in this snow," one voice growled. "Spread out and keep your eyes peeled." Maria felt tense beside me. I caught glimpses of dark figures moving between the trees through gaps in the snow-covered branches. Blood ran cold as I spotted the first killer clown mask, its grotesque grin contrasting with the pristine white landscape. "Jake," Maria whispered, her voice barely audible. "What do we do?" Before I could answer, a new sound cut through the air. Gunshots, followed by shouts. The clown-masked figures ducked for cover, their attention drawn away from our hiding spot. More voices joined the fray, but I couldn't tell who was who in the chaos. The stress of the situation was taking its toll. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the conflicting sounds and movements. Suddenly a figure emerged from behind a nearby tree, much closer than the others, and I instinctively threw myself over Maria, shielding her as best I could. My heart pounded so loudly that I was sure it would give away our position. "Police, come out with your hands up," a voice called out. I froze, unsure if it was a trick. The voice sounded authoritative, but could we trust it? "Jake," Maria whispered urgently. "I think I recognize that voice. It's Officer Davis. He does the DARE program at school." I hesitated, weighing our options. Maria was right. We were moments away from safety. If she were wrong, we'd be walking right into danger. The crunching of snow grew louder as the figure approached our hiding spot. "We're going to stand up slowly," I told Maria, my voice shaking. "Stay behind me, okay?" Taking a deep breath, I called out, "Don't shoot. We're students." We emerged from our shelter, hands raised. The figure before us lowered his weapon, and I saw with immense relief that it was indeed Officer Davis. His face, usually friendly during school presentations, was etched with concern and determination. "Jake, Maria, thank God," he said, ushering us behind a tree for cover. "Are you hurt?" As the reality of our rescue sank in, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. We were safe, but the ordeal had left its mark. As Officer Davis radioed for backup and began leading us out of the woods, I knew the memories of this day would stay with us for a long time to come. As Officer Davis led us out of the woods, relief washed over me. We emerged to a scene of flashing lights and concerned faces. Maria's parents rushed to embrace her, while my mom held me tight, tears streaming down her face. The next few days passed in a blur of police interviews and counseling sessions. The school brought in trauma specialists to help students cope with what had happened. I learned Sean hadn't made it. The news hit me like a punch in the gut. At Sean's funeral, I knelt down before his coffin and made the sign of the cross. Grief mixed with a strange sense of guilt. Some had criticized my decision to run, saying we should have followed lockdown protocols. But as I knelt there, I knew I had made the right choice. I knew Sean was looking down, agreeing with me.